Okay, so as I said before, welcome to Collaboration Junkies, and today's session is all about partner planning. So we're going to keep it, as I said, keep it a high level, and then answer your questions, keep it as specific as possible to you, because partner planning is such a broad topic. I could probably do a workshop on multiple little bits of it in its own, just on their own. So I want to keep it relevant to you, absolutely relevant to you. But before I do that, just a quick bit on why you should be listening to me about partnerships. So my background is built a membership organisation up to a couple of thousand members, and realised that kind of 95% of that, and probably closer to 99 to be honest, was all either through strategic partners or member referrals. We were the top referral partner for Regis in 2013, so a big global office brand, but within the UK, we were their top referral partner. We ran Volvo's SME engagement for 2 years, so bringing business owners into their forecourts. Delivered almost 10,000 leads to Yale over a 2-year period. And so all told, I think I've reached about 1 million business owners through partnership channels. So I've had a relative amount of success along the way. But I have made or witnessed lots and lots of mistakes along the way as well. And from sitting on both sides of kind of a lead generation partnership, I like to think that I'm able to at least impart some of that knowledge so that I've made the mistakes so other people don't have to. And that's what I do now. I now help other people set up their strategic partnership programs, typically around lead generation, so that they can leverage trusted third parties to get reliable, high quality leads into their business. So that's a little bit on who I am and why it is that I talk about this stuff and everything else. So partner planning. I'm going to kick off with just a few kind of top level things on this, and that's that it is. I find when I speak to people, it is the most neglected part of partnerships. It's like the unwanted child of partnerships, and so it's so many people neglect to do this, or they just do it very briefly and they look at some kind of key metrics without really delving deeper into where they should be. And the trick is you have to do it, but to do it early. With all this stuff, and we'll go through this, the quicker you can have it within that discussion, the better. Now, it's quite hard to do it some of the times, because you're getting caught up in the excitement of having a new partnership, and this new collaboration is going to be amazing, and kind of bringing it back down to earth sometimes doesn't feel, depending on your personality type. But I know for me, I have to make a real conscious effort to kind of bring it back and go, right, let's put the nuts and bolts in place, because sometimes you just want to get carried away with the excitement of what could be. But the earlier you do this, just can save you so much pain and gain you so much benefits down the line. Now, as I've mentioned, it's not always the funnest thing to do, this planning piece, which is why we don't always focus on it, and many people kind of skip doing its entirety. But what it does do, it gives you the structure to have do the fun parts, do the exciting, where are we going to take this? Because if you know where everyone stands, that your values are, that you're sharing the same vision, you know who's doing what, and it's documented. If you've got all this in place, then it kind of gives you the freedom to go, okay, we all know where we stand here. We know who's expected to do what and where we all are. Right, now we can focus on the going and the delivering and planning our world domination and everything else. So actually, while it might not seem the funnest thing to do, it will absolutely make the rest of the partnership more enjoyable. It should also be a continual process. So it's not something to do just at the start and then go, oh, that's done. I always recommend building formal reviews into your partnership. So outside the day-to-day communication that you often have with your partners, having those kind of, every 2 months or however long it may be, 1 month or quarter, actually having a formal review to not only look back at the things that you've planned out and set out, but to look at how they may need adapting into the future. And it's again, it's something that is so easily overlooked to kind of put those in place because you don't think you need them because you're chatting to your partners frequently. That sometimes that having those more having the structure to have the continual process in place, you gain so much from those meetings outside of that as well, because it's a bit of a you get a more holistic approach around what's going on in your partner's business, and typically they find out a bit more than you, and opportunity comes from that. And then the final thing is I'm going to go through some pointers today, which is just kind of a checklist as a starting point for some things for you to think about, and hopefully there's things that you're all going to be able to take away from that. But how much you need to do on any individual bit of the planning, we all need to do it, but how much you need to do in any individual bit will absolutely be bespoke, not only to your business, but to each type of partner that you're working with. Some will need more of one bit of planning than the other. In some instances, once you've done a particular bit of work, then that's it. That's you sorted internally, and you can kind of that bit's done. So not all of these are going to be as relevant for each one of you or each partnership. So this is a broader overview of kind of the planning that needs to go in place. It will be largely focused on lead generation partnerships, but also in with that where you might be working in collaboration with someone as a kind of on a joint project to gain more exposure or whatever it may be. But that's going to be the main focus of what we do today. Otherwise we would be here for forever. So setting expectations. So I pulled this kind of this piece out because within the planning piece, there's obviously a lot of the logistical kind of things that need to happen with a partnership, and they do overlap with setting expectations. But there's planning that you need to do internally. There's planning you need to do with your partner. But a really important thing with all of the planning, and it happens at the same time, is setting expectations. And again, it's something that is overlooked so much, I think, in partnerships. And we just assume we're having great conversations with people, and we just assume that everyone's on the same page, because why wouldn't we be? Why wouldn't we be when all these meetings are going so well? Never, ever assume. We all know that thing of never assume it makes an ass of you and me kind of thing, but never has it been truer in partnerships, because we just don't quite know. In all my experience, they're absolutely crucial for defining success, because your version of what's successful in a partnership and someone else's could be probably shouldn't be two completely different things. But how do you know what success is? All this planning you're doing and all this stuff, how do you know what success is if you haven't agreed kind of together what that successful outcome looks like? And you can get the lack of setting of expectations is where you can get a real mismatch, and resentment can almost set in when these expectations aren't managed, and one party thinks something should be going in another direction or another level of success than the other. It's where real resentment can build up, and that isn't healthy. And it's equally essential for knowing when things aren't working. So if you've all set expectations out, then as well as knowing what success looks like, you know what, not necessarily failure, but you know what not meeting those standards or that journey happens, which makes the difficult conversations you might need to have and put off, it makes them much easier when you've got these set expectations. And just so I could do a whole workshop on the setting expectation piece, but there's just a few pointers here of things that you might want to measure stuff by. So, and on the expectations, and there's both your expectations on your partner, and there's the expectations on the partnership as a whole. And so you might want to look at measures. Time certainly should be in there. So expectations on your partner is how much of their time are they putting in. Expectations of the partnership would be whatever we've defined success as. When are we doing that? And are there milestones along the way that we're expecting to hit? Again, by putting these in place, it doesn't mean that if you don't hit them, you're ending your partnership, but it means that you've got these you've at least got a clear journey of where you want to get to, and you've got again about that, having those potentially difficult conversations, making them easy. You've got something to measure against. By money's an obvious one. Are you setting your expectations by the amount of leads or the revenue generated? Maybe for this particular partnership, the expectations about a certain reach that you're going to achieve for raising your profile. And then the final one that I'm going to put on there is focus. So this is more of an expectation on your partner rather than the partnership, and just how much energy are they putting into this. This can be the real biggie in terms of the resentment when you're working with someone collaboratively on a project or to get a message out there. If you haven't kind of set the expectation around how much of your energy is really going towards this, I've known people who are putting 3 days a week into something and the other person's just kind of dabbling on the side, and it's because they both presumed the wrong thing at the start and never set that out. And so that's why the setting expectations piece alongside the planning is so crucial. One final point on the setting expectations: things like the time put in and the focus and the things like this, they don't have to be equal. So if one person goes, well, I'm going to spend a day a week on this, and you're going to spend 3 days a week on it, that's potentially fine, as long as you know that and you're happy with that, and other things on the back end, the reward, the expectations of what the reward is and the output is, has been agreed as well. And so partnerships and collaborations, they don't have to be a 50-50 thing on where they go. They just need to be agreed around who's putting what effort in and who's expecting to get what back out from it on the far side. So moving on to kind of a bit more onto planning. For me, there's 3 key areas to look at, and that's immediate. And by immediate, I really mean immediate, and it's what can we do to just get going? What tasks, what simple things are there that mean we can just test the waters? We've had a few meetings, we like what each other are about, we see where this could go. At that point, I have been a part of, and I have seen so many collaborations fizzle out because there's so much opportunity that people start planning for this broad, great, amazing thing, and then something happens, which means one of the parties gets dragged away, and all the momentum's lost, and it just, what started off as something super promising just fizzles out. So I would always recommend kind of going, what is the lowest hanging fruit? What is the very simplest thing that we can do? Is it if you're working in collaboration with someone to get out there, is there just an event that we can start doing? If it's a lead generation partnership, is there a really simple email that we can put out that attracts people along to something that you're doing, a lead magnet of some description? It's what is that least path of resistance thing where we can both just see, is this going to work as well as we think it is? Are we both the sorts of people that are actually going to do the things that we say we're going to do? So I would highly recommend getting that immediate piece in. The short term, which is what we'll kind of focus on for the second 10 minutes of this piece, is exactly that. Is what do we see as the core delivery, the core thing that we're collaborating on, and what needs to happen to make that happen. The mid to long term piece, I'll cover now again. So that is where do we see this going? Now, if we're looking at a straight up lead generation partnership, for many, that's just for it to be as successful as it comes, and we'll do more and more together, and it's a fairly easy conversation. If you're working more closely with another partner, really collaboratively, it's really important to look at where that might lie, because for them, there might not even be a mid to long term. They may go, oh no, this just seems like something good to do for the next 6 to 12 months. Let's gain a little bit of profile, and that's that, because actually I've got these plans. Or they might go, in the lead generation sense, they might go, well, actually, My mid to long term idea is that at the moment I'm more than happy referring you in, but actually my idea is if this takes off, I'm going to want to bring those skills in house. And it's important to know that. It doesn't mean that you don't enter that partnership, but wouldn't you rather know that going in than the other way round? Of course, it could be that actually there's a great synergy, and you start talking about producing joint products together and merging and joint ventures and all those wonderful things. So it's a fun conversation to have because you can talk about the possibilities. But it's a really important one to have in all partnerships, just to make sure that you know where you stand. It just solves any nasty surprises further down the line. So coming back to that short-term planning, as I said, there's two types. So the first off, there's the planning that you do with your partner. So nice little. First up is things like, and this is a really obvious one, it's things like content. So whether it's like if there's content to be produced, either because you're supporting someone who's going to be providing you leads, or because you're working together, literally down to that, who's doing what and who's doing it by when, and it just gets missed. I see lots of people plan it, not so many put timescales on it, and it's this sort of things where you need to give yourselves permission to hold each other accountable, because you can do all the planning in the world, but if you're not comfortable holding each other to account, well then the planning's kind of useless if it doesn't all go to plan. Along with content is things like supporting materials. So particularly this works in kind of lead gen partnerships. What materials do your partners need to allow them to do what you want them to do, which is provide you leads essentially? And again, the supporting materials one is on the program that I run. It's a huge piece that we do because it gets neglected by so many businesses. And typically, with me, I've worked with large brands, global brands, as I mentioned on that first slide, and small brands. And the large brands are the worst with supporting materials sometimes because they just send you standard stuff, if anything at all. But actually planning with your partner around for the actions that we need to do, what do you need me to provide to make your life easier? And it could be an email, it could be flyers, it could be positioning statements so that they know how to comfortably introduce you. Whatever it is, that needs to be planned out, and you need to know when that's going to be produced and who it's going to be by. Marketing activity, again, another really obvious one, but essential to get in place. Who's doing what and when? It's not complicated. None of this is complicated stuff, but it does get missed off so much. And by actually having it formally down that you're doing it, kind of makes everyone committed that it is actually going to happen. So not only what activity is going on, but what volumes is it going to be to? How frequently are they going to be? How frequently are the campaigns going to be going out? This is another one that's happened that I've seen happen quite a lot, is where people do a one-off blast, whereas actually no, if you make sure you get kind of as much as possible and as far in advance as possible a consistent sequence of campaign, because then you know that your message is getting across. If it's just a one-off email blast, it's not likely to be that successful because, well, marketing isn't these days, is it? What do they say now? I think it's gone up in the pandemic. It's something like 23 touch points or something. Now the joys of working in partnership is I'm sure that 23 touch points gets reduced significantly, because the whole point of partnerships is you're leveraging someone else's relationship, but it's still good to get that ongoing campaign frequency in, because otherwise by the time you realize that there hasn't been any other activity, you've then got another wait before to get it scheduled in. Obvious one here is operational responsibilities and systems and processes. This is particularly relevant if you're working kind of really collaboratively and with someone else on kind of a joint project. Is if you're sharing resources and you've got teams, who actually is doing what, whose systems and processes are using, just really nailing that down at that to that granular level. It's about never assuming again, and so many of these things that seem obvious, they just get missed off. And I go, oh, I thought that was happening. And I thought, every time it's like, oh, I thought you were doing that, or I thought we were doing that, you're just delaying. You're delaying doing the bit to the partnership that you really want to be doing, which is getting out there and delivering and generating results. And it loses that momentum. And as in most things in life, momentum is absolutely crucial, particularly at the start of a partnership. Revenue generation. So if this is a straight up kind of lead generation partnership, well, this is kind of an easy one. It's agreeing what commission or referral fees that you're paying. If you're working in collaboratively with someone else on a joint product to bring things in, it's, well, who's getting what share of revenue, where's that going in what pot, is some being retained? Really crucial one to bring up. Customer ownership. Again, if it's a straight up kind of referral partnership and someone's introducing you a lead in, well, then it's standard for you to own the customer. You may want to have conversations around additional products that can or can't be upsold, or other businesses that can be referred. But it's an important one to have, a conversation to have. And obviously, if you're doing something on a more joint basis rather than just a straight up referral, it's an absolutely crucial one. And linked in with that is kind of exit. So that top half of the list is the more your operational kind of who's doing what and when, which are absolutely vital to have to get going. But at the same time, you do need to have these more contractual relationship type conversations. So again, back to that setting expectations, that there's no nasty surprises at the end of the line. And these things, like, I know this might seem like a big old long list, but actually in principle, when you're with most of your partners, when you're having it, they're quick things to knock off, because they should be on the same page as you. Otherwise you wouldn't be entering into partnerships. So final piece on the planning is on the internal planning for you. And that's things like, and a lot of this will be based on that previous slide. So it's obvious things like, if there's materials to be produced, well, then who's doing it and when? If it's within your team, then who's doing it? If it's just you, then it's, when am I physically going to have time for this? And if the people on this call are anything like me, even with a wonderful VA team in place, I can say that because it's Lisa's team, who's here at the call, there's never enough hours in the day. So just being realistic, because what you don't want to do with a new partner is overcommit. Overpromise and underdeliver is not the way to go. Tracking and reporting. So if it is, how are you going to be keeping an eye on the lead? If you are bringing on a new lead generation partner, how are you tracking the leads that come in? How are you reporting back to them? One of the key ways of keeping partners engaged is being proactive and letting them know what you're doing with the leads they provided with you. Conversely, the absolutely surefire way to kill a partnership or any kind of trust or belief in it is to not have this bit right. And so if your partner goes, oh, I referred so-and-so the other day, how are they getting on? And you can't tell them quickly and accurately. I've been in that position, and I just lost all faith in the partner. Lead handling. So I'm sure you all deal with all your leads in a really wonderful and efficient manner. But if there is a way to go above and beyond even more, then it's with partner leads and referral leads. Because it's not just your reputation on the line, it's whoever's referred that business's reputation on the line as well. And if you're looking at kind of a strategic partnership providing you leads on a consistent basis, well, you need to make sure that whole kind of process is as slick as it ever possibly could be. So what you're doing there. And linked in with that is capacity. So most of the time, your initial launch with a partner won't go as spectacular as you both imagine it, because most of us as business owners are optimists. We're opportunists and we're optimists. And we like to think that things are going to go amazingly well. Most of the time, they don't go quite as amazingly well as we think they will, but that's fine, because we probably set our targets up here, and if it comes in here, there's still been a really good success, and you can build on that. However, if things go better than planned, can your business cope with it? We worked with when I ran my membership organisation, one of the benefits we had, we were working with a well-known sales data provider, and we ran a campaign to our members for them to get access to this benefit, and it went really well, really well. Hundreds of inquiries very quickly, and the well-known national organisation couldn't cope with them. We started getting complaints from members that they put this thing in, they not heard back for a week, and it was awful. We spent so much time kind of clearing up the fact that this thing that had looked so positive actually wasn't, because even at national organisation level, they just weren't set up to deal with the volume of inquiries in the way that we delivered them. And it kind of, we stayed in partnership with them for a while, because the offering was great, but it just never really truly recovered. So while often things won't quite go as well as you expect right from the very get-go, you've got to have in mind, what if they do? What if they do and the volumes are really high? And so that's I think I've been on just over 20 minutes. So that's my kind of whistle stop tour of partner planning. So I think that if I'm going to really distill it down, it's how can we get going? Plan for that easy, as much as doing bigger stuff, plan for that really simple kind of how can we get going? Who's doing what and by when, which seems simple, but it's there. Where's this headed? And how we're accountable. And if you kind of, in amongst the kind of that other broader list, if you can keep that in mind, then it gives you the framework to be able to kind of to give your partnership the best chance of success. Last very quick bit for me, if that's okay. If you want to know more of this stuff, partner planning is just one aspect of my profitable partnership program, which helps you deliver a consistent flow of high quality leads into your business through third parties. We look at who you should be targeting, how you should be targeting them, what to do to engage them and support to provide them, how to plan that all out, and then how to kind of engage with them on a consistent basis and keep them communicated. It's a 7-week program of weekly live group sessions, half a day a week. The first one has literally just finished last week, actually, last Tuesday, and there's one-to-one calls in with me as well. Kicked off on September the 22nd. It's there's a £1,500 early bird rate. If any of you would like to know a little bit more about that, then please give me a shout, and be happy to chat in a bit more detail. Right, that's that for Whistle Stop. I said 20 minutes and I've been 25, I think, so apologies for that, but there's so much you could cover on partnership planning. Does anyone have any specific questions? Yes, Rachel, fire away. Yeah.
So in the setting expectations stage, do you recommend that you end up with essentially a legal contract, or is it a more informal expectation?
So partnership agreements, I always recommend having a partnership agreement in place. That I have signed so many from large organizations that are like full-on formal contracts with refer back to 12.1.3 and then at 7 and for most there's just no need for that. However, I actually would recommend having a partnership agreement in place. Now, I think kind of a simple one page is fine, but even if you're not going to do that, just having something bulleted out on an email of like, this is what we're doing, this is what's expected, this is what we're both doing, are you happy with this? Can you just respond by a reply? It comes back to that thing around right at the start, we said that making the hard conversations easy is if you can go, well, look, actually, this is what we said we were going to do, and it's here on this email that we both agreed to. It gives you that reference point, Rachel. In terms of the long-term vision, that doesn't necessarily need to be in there, because that that changes, unless something comes out in that discussion that potentially has more serious ramifications. Then maybe you bring it in. Then maybe you do bring it in. But certainly at a certainly at the kind of a base level of this is what we're all doing, and this is the goal, and this is how the financial piece works. Absolutely, I would have that documented without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I do have another question if nobody else has got one, which is more around sort of liability. So say you're working, a partner introduces you into a client, you scope a piece of work, they put a markup on it to make money on it. Where is that liability? So does it sit with us as the people doing the delivery, or is it with the agency who's got the contract?
So the legal side of partnerships is not my forte, but
Yeah.
I would imagine that would depend on the contract that's in place. Because at some point there's going to be an agreement between parties. So if it's a straight up kind of referral arrangement, and that first party has just referred you in, and you quote the customer, you work with the customer, and you just pay the referral partner a fee.
Yes.
Well, then the liability is with you. Yeah. I would imagine that if the client is still owned by the original kind of person, and you're going in almost as a subcontractor behind them, I would imagine the liability either lies with them or it lies with you, depending on what your contract with them is. Yeah. I don't think there can be a standard thing on that, because it would depend on the agreement. If there are no agreements in place, well, then I'm going to default to I'm not the person to be asking about that. Yeah, no, I'll be honest, it's just not that particular bit is out of my area of expertise, and I wouldn't want to give bad. No,
that's fine. I think the main thing. So we're in a slightly odd situation where, in the last week, we've been asked to tender for quite a juicy piece of work through an agency who doesn't have our skill set at all. But so we've done the proposal, etc., and they're looking at what markup they put on to then sell it as the agency is owning the relationship, but Mojo are doing the work. So we're going through this process now of all these expectation setting and how do we formalize it, because we've just gone full steam ahead to doing the proposal, as opposed to going, well, actually, how will this really work with you as an agency? Yeah. So this session is very timely, which is great.
Yeah. So the crucial thing for you in that context, yeah, you need an agreement in place with that agency and that partner that you're comfortable with 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Rachel, I don't know if it would help and if Dave would agree, but I've done that a couple of times, and what I've done is have a three-way conversation.
And just with the end client as well.
Yeah, so just make it very transparent from the day in, so that I'm not kind of caught in the middle. So a couple of times I've introduced an agency into one of my clients, and rather being caught in the middle there, I've got them all on a call initially and just got everyone to voice expectations. So that we've all got the same reference point.
So we have thankfully been introduced as an independent agency, but as the creative agency's third specialist partner type of thing. So the client has met us as we are Mojo and knows we are distinct to the creative agency, but not to the point of expectation, and even down to things like, actually, do you pay us directly or do you pay us through the agency? Because we haven't won it yet, so we haven't quite got that far. But I think it's worth covering that initially with the agency, and even raising it as do we need to get them on board with it? Thank you.
I think the fact that you've been introduced in as not a proper part of them probably makes the process much easier. But yeah, you just need to tighten it up. Thank you. And yes, Nick, I do agree. Where you can, that's absolutely the way to do it. So having open and honest conversations is always the answer in almost any instance, isn't it? So yeah, absolutely agree. Danielle, yes.
Hello, that was brilliant. Thank you so much. I've got so many notes. I wanted to ask, do you have any tips or exercises that can be introduced when talking about this, it's sort of probably in the setting expectations stage. One thing I've come across a lot in partnerships is either somebody is underplaying or overplaying their value. And I do this too. Sometimes I underplay my value and sometimes I boast about stuff and then I've not really thought it through. So yeah, not necessarily in a bad way, but like, how do you handle some of that?
So for me personally, I lead with it. I kind of lead the thing of not doing either and being honest and kind of going, well, I'm sure we've all done this in the past before, and going, it could go like this or it could go like this. So instead of going, I expect this result, I'll go, well, you know what? I had things that have gone like this before, and I've had things that have gone like this before, and just not being so definite, kind of being the person that leads with it and goes, well, you know what? It'd be amazing if this goes amazingly well, but this is the spectrum of results that could happen. And then by being the person that's open and honest in the first instance, it gives other people the permission to lead out from that. Now, some people just won't be like that, and there's no real way to come out to find that out other than that's why sometimes that what can we do that's quick and easy. That piece there often kind of pulls that out a little bit, because it's the getting going where some of those things naturally rise to the surface. So
oh, thank you. That's yeah.
Well, there's not it's such a and then gut feel. It's one of those ones where you end up just, the more of these conversations you have, sometimes it doesn't feel right, does it? And I've learned to trust my gut. So yeah, sorry, no, there's no 3-step process for defining that. I'm afraid. So yeah.
Oh.
Any other specifics? Otherwise, I'll move to the ones that you guys put out in advance. No? Right. So, Derek, you mentioned about the most frustrating thing on partnerships on this thing.
Yeah.
Partnerships that I'd had, and for me, I think it's actually linked to today's session, and it is mismanagement of expectations for me. And I've probably been guilty of it in the past, not intentionally. So kind of things don't go to plan, they just don't sometimes. But for me, it's when someone deliberately mismanages your expectations. I kind of linked back to Danielle's question actually as well, so that was quite a nice segue. Yeah, for me that's that, because it's a trust aspect. Then if someone's deliberately mismanaged your expectations, then they've not been honest, and trust in a partnership has to be crucial for me personally. So, well, what yourself, Derek? 'Cause I know you've obviously done lots of partnerships yourself before as well.
I think some of the stuff you've done this morning is very good, because that can almost be made into a document to be sent out. Because I think, like yourself, you spend hours and hours with like a membership organisation. It's all wonderful. You spend hours of your own time, and then someone just disappears. No one's taken ownership of it, and it just dies. And you just wasted days, hours, and weeks on a program that was never going to work. Because I think a lot of these organisations, although they say they're big and they're very well known, a lot of them haven't got any marketing skills whatsoever. So I think to set up the obligations of them to actually ask who's doing that, when it will be done by, I think, although it sounds very obvious, it's not obvious. But I think if you put it into a document, that could be very, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're only obvious so it seems obvious on paper, but when you get into the swing of it, it's not, because there's so many other things you're thinking about, and then it becomes obvious once your fingers have been burnt by it a few times. You're like, well, no, that obvious stuff I actually need to start actually doing. Yeah.
So, Dave, could I just ask something as well? Because Rachel was talking earlier about who's contracted to. So we've obviously done a lot of this. So my answer to that would be you're contracted to your customer. So what you've got to do is always look at the negative side of what happens if your customer's not paid. So if you do a job for your customer, he puts a markup on it, and then his customer says, well, I'm not paying for that, I don't like it. who would you go after personally for your money? Yeah, because that contract, I guess, is with your intermediary, not the end person. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Thank you.
Okay.
Because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, isn't it? It's yeah, getting paid. We've got to make sure, haven't we? So, so Rachel and Nick, yours are both linked. I don't know which one to go first. So
I actually remember what mine was.
Oh, right. So Rachel, you asked one around the nature of reciprocal referrals.
Okay.
And Nick, you asked about paying for referrals from associates. And I think the two are inherently linked. And so you know what? I'm going to cover them off together, actually. And so first up, I think there's something different between a strategic partner and referrals. So a strategic partner or a kind of consistent referral partner is someone that you're working with closely to provide you leads on a consistent basis. Referrals from kind of anywhere and everywhere, I think, are slightly different, and people are motivated very, very differently. If you're entering into a commercial relationship with someone, then there's probably needs to be a commercial aspect to that, Nick. So I would say yes, it's absolutely fine to have that reward in place. However, and this kind of touches onto your one, Rachel, it being based on where it's done on a commercial basis rather than a friendly basis, but the idea is that you both equally refer other people. Very rarely have I seen those go really well consistently, because, and it's back to that resentment thing of how much time or how much focus. Typically, one person does more referring than the other. Now, sometimes it won't be down to lack of effort. A lot of the time it will be. But if you're both willing to cross-refer, if you both kind of see the synergies and you want to do it, and you're looking at it as a kind of commercial basis because you see there's value in there, then I would just each have a referral agreement with each other, so that if one person is doing much more of the referring, well, that's kind of fine because they're getting rewarded financially, if not in leads. A more formal relationship being based on, well, we'll just both pass each other leads. There's just so much grey area, and grey areas can be where fallouts happen typically, I think. Nick, as for your one on specifically on paying for referrals, there is a great book that I've just finished listening to called Drive by Dan Pink around people's motivation. And there's that whole thing. We had this when we ran our membership organization, right? That we did a number of different ways that we reward people for referring us. Because for some people, when you pay them, it becomes a sales activity, and they don't want to do that. They weren't looking to be employed by you, Nick. They just wanted to refer someone to you because it's a nice thing to do. But that's the difference between kind of a referral and having a commercial conversation with someone around their synergies here. Let's see how we hook up. And so by pushing kind of fees onto people, you can actually turn people off. So in some instances, I would say yes, always have it there, and in others you have to be really careful. What you can do is offer rewards afterwards. So I would always recommend doing a thank you, and if you know the person, making it personalized or whatever it may be, absolutely do it. If you want to promote that you offer referrals, then one way round is you can say that you offer a fee to the referrer, or it can go off the referral. They can have a discount, or that you do a charity thing. So there are ways, if you want to promote that you actively look, then there's ways of kind of softening it so that people can sign up without doing it. But pushing rewards on people who are loosely just kind of be referring you can be a dangerous thing. But if you're having a proper conversation with someone about this happening on a consistent basis, well, then that's a commercial conversation, and it's appropriate to bring it up. It may be that they then go, well, actually, no, I'd rather this happened or that happened or whatever. But it's an appropriate conversation to have. one thing I'll touch on, very quickly touch on this, and it's something that I spoke about a lot in my last event, and I speak a lot about all the time, is the real why of a partnership. So even where there is a commercial kind of conversation and relationship in place, for your really, really strong partners, the ones that are perfect for you, that won't be the main reason why they're working with you. The main reason why your really, really strong partners will work with you is because there's something about your service that not only adds value to their audience, but makes them look better in their audience's eyes, either because it strengthens the relationship or enhances their service. And that's the reason why someone will want to work with you and will consistently refer. Whatever the commercial piece is the bit that kind of ticks the box in the head of like, well, yeah, this is a thing and it's all a business thing. But that real why, the emotional piece, the bit, that's the real why they'll do it on a consistent basis when you're looking at your perfect partners. Danielle, yes.
Do you have anything more that we can read about the real why?
I will have soon. No, but soon. It's top of my list. It's top of my list of kind of blog post articles to write, because it's the game changer. It is the secret sauce in a successful collaboration, is to get that piece nailed. And when you realise that, it just changes your focus.
Can I just jump in on that? We read a lot of Simon Sinek, who's all about know your why, and we actually use that quite a lot in our own work with our clients to help them really, because he does like a bullseye thing, which really helps you finalize, or be quite finite. Sorry for your child crying in the background. Finalize what that why is, but it's work. He's got like a 5-minute TED talk that sums it up really nicely, and he's got loads of books, but that's often quite a nice starting place to help you think about this concept of why and the layers.
Yeah, because you definitely need to know what your own why is if you're going to realise how you can then find the why of a partner. Absolutely. And I recommend, I started on the Audible of the book and I stopped. I was like, the TED talk was fine for me.
TED talk, everything you need in a nutshell.
Yeah, and then it's kind of rinse and repeat for 6 hours, so I stopped after 3, I think, on that particular one. His Leaders Eat Last is a really is one I enjoyed as well, the TED talk. So but I am going to do something on it, because it starts with knowing what your own why is and really nailing who your ideal market is, and then you can go, right, now I can figure out what the why is for the partner as well, so they want to work with me. So coming soon, Danielle. Right. Any more? No? Brilliant. Right. So thank you all for coming along. It is 10:53, so I'm going to give everyone 7 wonderful minutes. 7 wonderful minutes back. I will, if anyone would like a copy of the slides or the recording, I will be sharing them. I've got your details, so from when you registered on, so I'll be sending those out on email. And thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your days and weeks. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
Bye.